What's up, guys? Connor O'Hanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. And today we have a lot of culture war nonsense to debunk, to grapple with, to fight with, and to understand as we move into this new era of cancel culture in America, specifically with the right wing going insane the days before Pride Month starts in June. Then, of course, we will talk about the debt ceiling that is approaching its X day, which supposedly is tomorrow, which means the cap that we have to adjust for our national debt needs to go up by tomorrow, in theory, which we'll discuss. It's not exactly the way that it'll shape up, but we will see, and we will talk about the deal that has been struck, and if I think it's worth it, if I think it'll pass, etc. Then, which as always, we'll jumble around what order we do things in, but I will go over the benefits of a 4-day work week after a study came out it was released 2 months ago or 2.5 months ago or so, and it is a focus of a book that I have previously highlighted and we will discuss further tonight, Stolen Focus. But the study is a UK study that showcases the benefits of a 4-day work week. But we could not go any June, which we're about to head into June, without the Republican outrage increasing and the triggering increasing. As you all know, June is Pride Month in America. So, as we have talked about, corporations go woke. And of course, when I say this, I'm saying this ironically, but the corporate wokeism that I'm talking about and I criticize is very different than the corporate wokeism that is being criticized by the right wing. So let me lay the groundwork for you. I will tell you my kind of interpretation of things and why going into Pride Month as an ally, as somebody, I'm wearing my Human Rights Campaign shirt today, just coincidentally. As an ally, why I don't have a problem with corporate wokeism, quote, but why it falls short of where it actually needs to be. And then we will dive into the specifics of what has triggered the right wing to cancel Target, Chick-Fil-A, and now Kohl's, and a few others. As I log on to Twitter, I see even more. And I'm sure with Diablo 4 coming out this week, Activision Blizzard will be canceled for having Pride Month. So we can't, for all the Republicans that don't want to play it, that's fine. You can leave the server bandwidth to me. But with that being said, let's discuss quickly before we go into the specifics, my opinion on the whole woke thing with corporations, okay? When we look at Pride Month, or we look at Black History Month, or when we look at any sort of progressive, nuanced, contextual, history month, or, holiday that, like Juneteenth, any of these things, right? We have to understand that there's always going to be a portion of Americans that just don't get it. So be it. But the reason why corporations, and I saw Ben Shapiro tweeting about this just before I came on, he's saying, like, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Well, the reality of the cases, of all these cases, are the majority of Americans are accepting of gay, trans, bi, non-binary people, etc. down the line, right? Over time, Americans have become more accepting of it, and the Republican electorate does not actually reflect the values and broad principles of America. Now, when we talk about American corporations, they operate under capitalism. And Republicans are supposed to be gung-ho about free market capitalism. And, of course, utilizing, let's use Pride Month as it's coming up, utilizing a logo that is turned into like a rainbow flag. Let's just use Activision Blizzard as an example, where they turn the Blizzard thing with that's normally blue into a rainbow. Doesn't hurt anybody, but two, it signals to people that they are safe there, that they are welcome there as employees and as customers. The Republican backlash to this, there is no equivalent. That's the other falsehood here. There's no equivalent to saying, like, oh, if the right wing did this, you guys would be just as angry. Not the case. But the shortcomings of this is that corporations are profit-driven. Solely profit-driven. A lot of the corporations that they are talking about, and we will see talked about here, other than Chick-Fil-A, I believe is a private company, are publicly traded companies in which they have to maximize profit for their shareholders. They are operating within a system that they understand that if they appeal to people that have been in historically marginalized communities, that they are increasing their consumer base. Now, that might sound pessimistic, it might sound black-pilled, it might sound cynical, That is just the fact of the matter. And it is good marketing, in my opinion. Signaling the values of a company and saying, we welcome you as a worker and as a consumer is good. And representation matters. But the shortcoming comes into play because the profits that are driving this, it is performative. And not every company is performative, but corporations that maybe, let's just say, lack DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that are banned in Florida now, those are the ones that struggle to actually implement functional DEI programs that bring diverse leaders into management roles, into the C-suite, or CFO, CEO, COO, and or the president, or any sort of number of different leadership roles within a company. When these programs are not in place, and when it is just the performative nature, that is when I, as somebody that actually promotes lifting voices that have been historically marginalized, that is when we have to call that out and say, you know what, this is actually kind of bullshit. And we deserve better. And as an ally, I will use my voice to lift those voices up myself. For the most part, I will say, we have seen genuine movement towards this equality on a racial front and on the gender and sexual orientation front. That does not mean we are there. That does not mean we have reached equality. That does not mean that we have completely eradicated the gender pay gap, that we have eradicated discrimination. We haven't, as we've talked about plenty of times in the past, right, on the show. But I just want to lay out that it is okay to be upset, or to not necessarily to boycott, but to say, hey, I know that you guys want to utilize the imagery of the LGBTQ plus community, but how come there's no representation on the board of directors from this group? Because remember also, this used to be more of a focus of people, but workers used to demand this more, and they should continue to demand this. But there used to be workers that were encouraged to be part of the board of directors of publicly traded companies. And it actually used to be, when there was stronger unions, a bargaining chip to say, we want X amount of workers to get on the board of directors. Well, if we want to actually include diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporate America and in, American capitalism more broadly, that is something that should be the focus, not this. You have, ignore all the ads as usual. Here's on MSNBC. Here we have Target. We'll start with Target. That has been the largest one here. Target announced earlier this week that the company was removing some LGBTQ themed items from shelves and moving displays intended to honor Pride Month to the back of the store in response to a public backlash from the right. But what happened at Target goes far beyond just what some people are calling for a boycott. So, for those of you just listening, at the Targets, which is normal around this time of year, you will see, and it's not just Targets, you'll see it at clothing stores across the country, you'll see it, as I said, corporations across pretty much the globe. I mean, you're talking about American publicly traded companies. They're spread across the globe, where there will be shirts, there will be flags, there will be different articles of clothing, bathing suits, the same way, mind you, that the 4th of July will have patriotic themes. And let's just think about Christmas will have Christmas themes. And for the most part, we can all accept that, okay, if you don't celebrate Christmas and you celebrate Hanukkah, there is also Hanukkah stuff. And if you don't celebrate Hanukkah, and you don't celebrate Christmas, you can just exist. You don't have to get triggered and boycott a clothing store because they are promoting and celebrating and frankly selling for profit items, articles of clothing, etc., that celebrate a nationality or a sexual orientation, etc. the backlash at Target was so far gone that we saw, TikToks, Instagram lives, Facebook lives of people going into the stores, going up to the displays, and saying, they're indoctrinating the children. They are trying to groom our children. And this is satanic. They were saying that the pride, which is a rainbow, mind you, displays were satanic. Now, I thought we moved past part of this 80s and 90s satanic scare with, Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and we will talk about Magic the Gathering actually in a second too, which is my pet project. But this is going to be the front that we are facing still. You would think that after years and years and years of moving the needle and saying, look, the 2015 bathroom bills were stupid. You guys have nothing to worry about. That all of the crap that was being brought up in that Obama administration about, oh no, they're trying to bring men into the girls' bathroom to let them do whatever. That is not the case. That is not what's happening. That's not what has happened historically, and that's not what's going to happen in the future. Actual targeting of children, whether it be any sort of crime, whatever you want to think of, is still going to be illegal, whether somebody is straight or bi or gay. That is not the point here. These folks are outraged because the capitalist companies that they are supposed to embrace in a free market society are appealing to both Christians, because in America, the fundamentalists that we're talking about are Christians, but in another country, I will talk briefly here in a second about Uganda. Christians are the main fundamentalist group in America, but in parts of New York, it's Jewish people. In parts of Michigan, there's more Islamic folks. Whatever we want to talk about, right? Religious fundamentalism does not override the freedoms of other people. The same way that my agnosticism does not override your ability to practice your religion and to sell crosses or to sell whatever type of religious iconography in a Target or in a Walmart or in any of these places. I don't have to go there, but I also don't have to get triggered and to call for boycotts over it. Now, the boycott is actually supposedly really hit the bottom line for Target. Now, am I going to shed a tear for Target, this giant corporation? No. But I mean, let's just do this. Let's just do this. Yeah, okay, here we go. Amazon, a company that I do not shop on their website, so you can count me in on this boycott, fellas. But Amazon celebrates Pride. Now, are the Republicans going to say that everyone should boycott Amazon? Okay, is that what we want to do? Is that what we really want to do? All right, how about this? Pride, Walmart. Boom. Okay, I guess we have to I guess we have to boycott Walmart too. How about, I don't know, what other company can you even think of that is a clothing or any of these stuff? But here's the same thing. If you go on here and you say, whatever, Christian clothing, I don't even know how you would say it, like Jesus clothing, I don't know. You'll probably come up with something that is being sold with the iconography of Jesus. Like, I'm sorry, but these are sold in the same business. So if you're only mad about one of them, I don't know what to say. Lindsay says Bass Pro Shop. Let me see. Pride Month. Diversity and inclusion, Bass Pro Shop. I mean, I don't know if they have a pride section, but they have diversity and inclusion on their website. That's because this is what an actual leader of a company would understand. A broader appeal brings more money. It brings more able people to come in to work for you. It brings in qualified and talented people to work for you, in fact, because people of different backgrounds provide. Actually, speaking of studies, if you want to talk about studies, studies have shown that the more diverse a workforce is, people of different backgrounds, different ages, etc., the more productive a workforce is. So allowing for and encouraging a diverse workforce is actually beneficial to the bottom line of companies. So, when you call for the boycott of Target, you are basically isolating one of the businesses that are amongst thousands that do the same thing, and maybe in a month or in 15 days or in a week, we will see boycotts of all these companies, because Bud Light was the last one before this, and because Dylan Mulvaney was this person that was so extraordinarily important to the right wing, even though I never heard of her. You probably never heard of her, but because she's trying to be an influencer of beer, I guess, and she does makeup, and because she's trans, then they have to boycott Bud Light. It doesn't make any sense, because the thing is that Dylan Mulvaney drinking Bud Light doesn't affect you drinking Bud Light. It doesn't make you gay, or it doesn't make you trans. It doesn't encourage people to be those things. It just says if you are these things, it is okay, and it is representation, and maybe you should buy this product. That's what it is, product placement. As I say, this is seltzer product placement, this is bubbly, so you should go and buy bubbly, But that's all it is. It is just paid promotion. But if you ask, and I know at least one fan of the program is going to be very happy to see this. If you ask this young man, Mr. Jimmy Levy, he thought it was important enough for the Target boycott to write a song about it. And if you have a sensitivity to cringe, I suggest you either turn away, turn down your earphones, or exit the room, because the amount of cringe that you are about to be induced with may send you into shock. So this is rapper Jimmy, I suppose, Levy, at Target, recording this at a Target, which I'm curious if Target could take action against this, to be honest with you. Because it's private property, and this guy is disparaging them, but who knows? Of course, I will point out, too, before this, that the artist himself has disabled anybody that is not following him or that he follows on Twitter to respond to this tweet, and I'm pretty sure my coworker and I were jamming out to this song, as well as, our normal Kid Rock and Creed jam out sessions. We were looking at the comments on YouTube, and it seems that they're pretty positive, which probably means, because the music sucks, which probably means that the creator was deleting the negative comments off of YouTube. Well, let's take a little listen. I hope this is not too loud. And again, prepare yourself. This is going to be a little cringe. Well, more than a little. That's so loud. I apologize.
Up on every island side, this door Satan resides. Wash it with the blood of Christ. It's needed here, so don't think twice.
So for those just listening, this man which he has a Star of David and a crucifix together. If anyone knows what that represents, please let me know. Maybe it's Jews for Jesus. I'm not actually sure. But he's walking through. Of course, here's a book that says something about a fart. He's just walking through the kids aisle, of course, near the picture books, which I don't also see anything about pride here, but besides the point. He is walking through the toy aisle singing about how the toys need to be blessed with the blood of Christ. Like, here he is in the baby section where you see little trucks, you see Barbies, you see, like Mr. Potato Head. I can't imagine walking through a Target and recording a music video like this and being taken seriously, or taking myself seriously. It is beyond my level of narcissism. So there's the hook of the song. Target is targeting my kids. Now you have another rapper come in here with one of those Trump digital trading cards where Trump is Superman somehow. The obese, nearly 80-year-old man is Superman. So now he's dancing I'm sorry. For people that are saying that a large big box store is targeting their kids, he is sure spending a lot of time in that aisle dancing around nothing that is saying that they're targeting kids. Now, if they were saying, look at all this advertisement and all this consumerism and all this toys and crap, and okay, that actually is targeting kids, but it's not grooming, it's not satanic, it's not bad necessarily, it's marketing. It is what is a company is going to do to sell things to people. Now, he's not even by the pride section of this store. So it's doubly ironic where he is just a large man, grown man, dancing in the babies aisle at Target. I think that's the whole clip. I'm not going to play any more of the song because it is not good. But I did see a meme of this where it was just him standing. Let's see if I can find it like this. And it just said, "Mom, I threw up," which I thought was great. I don't know who Tom McDonald is, Mickey. You'll have to allow my ignorance on that, because whether good or bad, I don't know who that is. Now, of course, this I think of course is just a little more of the non-groomer, non-sexualized content that Republicans want you and your kids to know exists. It is wholesome and will teach you a lesson about targeting your kids. And that is a blonde woman with a shotgun shooting Target's logo, which it happens to be a Target.
Target, you have put the children in your crosshairs. Now you have become the target. Go woke, go broke.
No way! Wow. Good shot. And then on the third one,
Target,
hits the post. So this is what I just find it extremely hypocritical. I have no problem with people being comfortable with who they are, expressing who they are, and whether that is somebody that is attractive, somebody that's not necessarily attracted to me, but might be attracted to somebody else, whatever. But this is like, I'm sorry, this is like the Donald Trump playbook of being as weirdly within his like scope of his type, if you know what I'm saying. And shooting this target, it's showing how tough the Republicans really are and how serious they are, which, of course, they're not threatening violence. How could you possibly imply that there is stochastic terrorism based on this? How could you possibly imply that? Now, go on TikTok and look up the videos of people going and threatening people. Now, that's actual implementation of stochastic terrorism, but, you know, the suggestion of bringing guns to a store or shooting the targets, of course, that's never happened in this country before. We've never had shootings at Targets and Walmarts before. Oh, wait, they happen all the time. But we can't do anything about the gun issue. We have to focus on trans people, which leads me to our second company of the day. So here we go. We're going to take out the microchip of Target, and we're going to put in the microchip of Chick-fil-A. And yes, I do say Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has gone woke. And I need to lay a few things out here, okay? The video in which we are going to watch is old. It is not controversial, if you ask me, and I will tell you why in a second. And I'll expand upon it based on I will utilize a Christian perspective on this as somebody who grew up Catholic and tell you why what this person, this man, the former CEO of Chick-fil-A is saying is actually not controversial in the slightest. But Chick-fil-A has a diversity, equity, inclusion portion of their business. So, of course, as the last woman said, go woke, go broke. Of course, that's not actually how that's fully been implemented in this country. Again, most companies embrace this stuff. But Chick-fil-A, which is closed on Sundays and is owned by a pretty conservative Christian family, now it's all over because the former CEO in an old video said this.
Story that was shared with me by a dear friend who shared with me about a revival that was taking place at a church in Texas. And at that revival on the front seat...
At a church, remember, at a church in Texas.
Older African-American man that was sitting there. And this young man got up that was there in that service, and he'd been so gripped with conviction about the racism that was in that local community in a small town in Texas that he took a shoe brush and he walked over to this elderly gentleman and he knelt on his knees and began to shine his shoes. And tears began to flow in that service. It was an attitude of conviction. So I invite folks to put some words to action here. And if we need to find somebody that needs to have their shoe shine, we need to just go right on over and shine their shoes. And whether they got tennis shoes on or not, maybe they got sand.
For those listening, the guy speaking is going over to a African-American dude on this panel. Now, I don't know what this panel was, to be honest with you, but it was in response to the George Floyd murder. And he is cleaning his shoes. That is all he's doing.
Zone, it really doesn't matter. But there's a time in which we need to have, some personal action here. Maybe we need to give him a hug too, brother.
And some stock in Chick-fil-A.
See, like what this is actually the epitome of what I'm saying, where it's like this guy is doing a performative action and this guy wants real action and saying like, how about some actual ownership in the company that you're talking about, some real reparation for what you're alluding to. But this is also not there's no harm in what he's doing either. I'll let this clip play out and then I'll expand upon it.
I bought about 1,500 of these, and I gave to all our Chick-fil-A operators and staff a number of years ago. And so any expressions of a contrite heart, of a sense of humility, a sense of shame, a sense of embarrassment, beget with an apologetic heart. I think that's...
So, what he is doing there, and talking about humility, and talking about, I forget the exact word he just said, but I was coughing, but, tranquil heart or whatever. What he is performing there, and again, it is performative. It is not saying we should give X to the generations following the people that were enslaved in this country, and X being whatever we decide is reparations. That's not what he's advocating for, which I think most people in my audience would support some level of reparations. We could hash that out. But as a Christian, and as somebody that is, the CEO of a company that is known as a Christian company, what he is alluding to, and what he is basically exemplifying, is Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, including Judas, who, remember, betrayed him, if you know your biblical history here, who betrayed him, and washing their feet at the Last Supper, showing humility and showing a level of a tranquil heart, as he says. That is the symbology of what he is suggesting. And this was interpreted by the right wing as him saying that all white people should get on their knees and shine the shoes of black people, which is not what he was saying. They're absolutely going nuts over this. And it is so ridiculous and manufactured, the outrage that continues to pour out over these things that have nothing or little to nothing to do with outrage that should be happening. We're not upset. They're not upset. I am upset, but they're not upset about people going hungry. They try to claim that they care about the veterans. They do not care about the veterans that are losing their housing. They could talk about all these different things about the trans movement, but they could give a damn about providing health care to everybody in America. They complain about, the indoctrination and grooming of people and woke corporations, but they never talk about wealth inequality that perpetuates the issues that face LGBTQ plus people, but also white people, black people alike, everybody across the spectrum. So when they talk about these issues and they divide us up based on race, which, okay, now let's go to, I want to show you guys this because this is a game that I like, and I'm going to talk to you about why people are mad. Okay. Building off what we just said, the issue of race in this country continues to be one that Americans struggle with, and in the American right specifically. Now, for those who don't know what LOTR is, that is Lord of the Rings. Now, what I am showing you is a Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering card. Yes, which you had probably no idea that's what we were going to be talking about today on a political show. But this is yet again another example of reactionaries being unable to think outside the box, to accept differences, to grow and to progress beyond what their myopic viewpoint of the world is. Aragorn, who is one of the main characters in Lord of the Rings, and if you've seen it, he's in all three movies, and he is played by, I forget the famous actor, but he's played by a pretty iconic actor. These cards are not based on the actors, they are based on the books, and they are expanded upon to take liberty where an artist, because remember, artists have liberty in what they are making, they made Aragorn a black man. Oh man. Because he is half human, half elf. Elves, according to some of the most sweatiest neckbeards, and I am amongst them, but I don't agree with them. Elves can't be black in Tolkien's universes. And this is the type of myopic viewpoint that we're talking about, where the obsession of race only exists one way. Now, if we were to turn characters from black to white, maybe there would be an outrage. Maybe there would be. Maybe there wouldn't be. It depends on what it is, right? If we turned Blade into a white dude, I don't think it would be nearly as problematic as turning a historical figure into being portrayed by a white actor or whatever. This is a fictional character, the same way that the Little Mermaid was Ariel from the Little Mermaid's a fictional character. These things are so minor, and but the representation is so vital for the people that historically have not had it. Because if you look at the Lord of the Rings movies, there is not representation for people of color. If you look at different fantasy settings from the last 50, 60, 70 years, even science fiction a lot of the times, there are not good representation of diversity in these settings. A modern interpretation of Tolkien's universe within the Lord of the Rings is okay to include diversity that maybe he didn't include in the book, but can be interpreted today as reasonable. It's so crazy that just one story after another is just coming up with this anti-woke focus that is not winning any elections for Republicans. It's actually losing them elections, which, so be it. But the thing is that it's not about the election here. It is about being divisive. It makes our country more divided than it needs to be, and it causes more issues than it does solving them. Because in the end, they are on the wrong side of history. And they have consistently been on the wrong side of history. Look back, right? This is progress, and it's not progress because, oh, the game that I like to play has a character that looks different than the movie. That doesn't matter to me. This artwork looks amazing, and I'm okay with it because, you know what? I'm not a triggered snowflake that says, oh, that character's supposed to look like me. Because I have characters that look like me. That is the crux of all of this. It is not a zero-sum game to say, like, okay, because we have a character that is black now, we necessarily cannot have any white characters. Not how it is. It's not how it ever is going to be. It's not how it was. Oh, so that is this week in wokeism or anti-wokeism, whatever. Let's talk about something that is even drier. The debt ceiling is a manufactured limit put on the president and the Congress on how much debt and how much borrowing the United States can do to pay its bills. Now, for those who are my age and older, at least, you can remember back a little over 10 years ago, 2011, 2012, I believe is when Ted Cruz led a tirade about the shutdown of the American government because they were going to hit, and we were going to hit, our debt ceiling. And what happens then is that the government cannot borrow more money, cannot issue more bonds, debt, to pay the bills that it has to pay. And there are millions, if not billions, of bills that go out every single day that have to be paid by the American federal government. But in that time, eventually, there was a deal that was reached. This time, there is a deal that has been proposed over the weekend, and we have not talked about this throughout the last couple of weeks or months, basically, because we knew that we were going to get here, but also without concrete details of what was proposed or what could happen, it wasn't worth covering. Now, what happens if we hit the debt limit is a question that a lot of us don't necessarily want to find out the answer to, but there are some potential outcomes. First of all, I want to emphasize one more time that the debt ceiling is not a budget. It is not proposing new spending. It is not saying, let's make Social Security 2.0. No, this is paying debt. It is paying bills that we have already taken on. It is approved. It is sending money for appropriations or money that is already accounted for and saying we will be spending this year. It is in the budget and has already been approved last year for this year's expenditure. But we are just saying, based on our revenue, we have to borrow X amount of dollars to cover the bill because the United States runs a deficit every single year. If we hit the debt limit, and let's just say Republicans obstruct it, and this deal doesn't go through, and we defaulted on the debt. What basically that is like if you have a credit card and you spend $20,000 and you cannot pay it, you would go bankrupt, right? On some level, you would have to file for bankruptcy, but the American government has never, and there are a few exceptions, but has never in practice actually defaulted on paying its debts. There is a number of reasons for that, but one of them, the largest one that we have to focus on, is because of the risk and likelihood of a global collapse of the stock market. It would cause a recession. It would undercut the integrity of the government's debtworthiness and their ability to pay back debts, which then would cause a ripple effect down the line. Also, I should not overlook that the 14th Amendment, which has been argued now by a number of different people, but the 14th Amendment does say this, is essentially that all debt recognized by the government is legitimate and has to be paid. The Biden administration is not pushing forward on utilizing that authority in this time to override the debt ceiling. And I will remind you again that the debt ceiling is arbitrary. It is approved and raised and approved and raised all the time. It has been historically, but it is a bargaining chip right now for Republicans because they are looking to cut programs. This deal, reported on by the American Prospect, David Day in here writing. This is from yesterday. Has a pretty good rundown of what is included in this deal. The first of which is adjustments to HANF, which is a temporary welfare program, where there are going to be eligibility crackdowns on who can get it based on work requirements. The same thing with SNAP, which is the program that is providing for food for people in this country, which again shouldn't be controversial, but they want work requirements on SNAP. There is also let's see. Here we go. there are potentially $21.4 billion in cuts to the IRS coming. Now, why do I highlight this part? Well, let's just say, as an accountant, the IRS has a very great place in my heart. No. I highlight this because this is precisely a great example of why this is not about the debt, this is not about the deficit, this is about control, and this is about getting what the Republicans want, specifically McCarthy and some of the more radical Republicans. Recall that Biden in I don't remember if it was the Inflation Reduction Act, but one of the bigger bills that were passed increased IRS funding to hire, I forget the exact amount, 87,000 new IRS agents over 10 years, okay? These cuts represent a decline in that hiring process, and mind you, and I will provide you the logic, I suppose, too, a cut to the IRS has a exponential decrease to revenues to the government because the IRS is the way and the functional mechanism in which the government receives tax dollars and revenue. I mean, it is the Internal Revenue Service. When you cut the IRS, you have less people doing the job, which means that they can audit fewer people, and they can audit only the people that are not only, but they will prefer and defer to audits that are easier, which typically are of lower income or middle income people. So when they lie, Republicans lie, and they say, oh, this increase in IRS agents, they're going to come after you. Well, no, unless you are a millionaire, a billionaire, or somehow a giant corporation. I'm sorry, that's not the target of the IRS. The IRS needs the funding because, as CV points out, they make mistakes. There are issues in processing. They take a long time. They can't answer the phone even for a CPA. But Republicans want to complain and say, well, the IRS is going to come after you. No, what they're saying is the IRS is going to come after our donors. And the IRS is going to come after us. Not me and you, the Republican lawmakers, and the Democratic lawmakers for that matter too, necessarily. Or their families, or their friends, or whatever, right? Cuts to the IRS increase the deficit, and an increase in the deficit increases the debt. Which, for some reason, that is just overlooked, and they just say, yep, that's fine, that's what we want. Well, I say that for some reason, but it's because the Republicans don't actually give a damn about the deficit and the debt. They would rather make a deal that cuts IRS funding, cuts SNAP benefits, which is going to put tens of thousands of people off the rolls to get SNAP, which is providing them with food. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands over the next year, off of the rolls. This deal freezes federal spending at 2023 levels, which is a functional cut in spending. Because if you freeze spending, let's just say if I have $100 in 2022 and I have to spend the same $100 in 2023, with inflation being 3 to 5 to 6% year over year, my money gets me less. That is a cut in my budget functionally without an increase. It's the same way that if you are working a job and you don't get a raise for a year, that is a functional cut to your paycheck. They are freezing all funding functionally, all discretionary funding. This is at least what they're saying now. Spending, I should say, not funding, at 2023 levels for 2024, 2025, I believe. Now things can change. You know, we get more Democrats elected in 2024. We can change this stuff, right? However, the one thing that you and I will never see frozen, you could take a guess in the chat. There's one part of government spending, and it's not Medicare, it's not Social Security, it's not Medicaid, that will not get cut, and in fact, we'll see a significant increase in the funding over the next 2 years, is the military. Now, since 2015, $300 billion per year has been added to the budget for the military. And that's what we know. Because, let's be honest here, there's a lot of other things that go into the budget and spending for these wars that we had been in, we don't even know about. If they can increase military spending, but they cannot increase spending for SNAP for the same veterans that they say that they care about, they can't expand the VA, they can't expand any sort of number of Medicare, Medicaid. None of these things are getting the expansion. They're actually getting cut. And now, McCarthy says this. Oh, yeah, you guys are worried about that. Well, what if I raise the ante and say we need to actually start cutting Medicare and Social Security? Which, of course, the Republicans booed Biden for when he said it at the State of the Union that they wanted to do it. Now he's just saying it out loud, and of course, we're just supposed to accept that. He changed his mind.
I was elected to help lead this nation. So the first thing we did, open the House up. The bills, you now get to see them before you ever vote on them. And now we're cutting. And you know what? I'm going to make some people uncomfortable by doing that.
They're cutting spending. They will never raise revenues. They will never revert back to a higher corporate tax rate. They will never revert to or increase the marginal tax brackets on the wealthiest Americans and give you, a middle class or a working class person, a tax break. They will never do that. The Republicans will never do that. They are not the party of the working class person. They do not give a damn about providing a hand up to people that are working class. They are looking to give tax cuts and increase spending to their donors. That is the game. They are not principled. There is nothing principled about what they're doing. They want to cut Social Security and Medicare because they want to privatize these things, and they want you to have to pay for it out of your pocket so that they can make more money and their friends can make more money.
But I'm not going to give up on the American people. And this isn't the end. This doesn't solve all the problems. This is the first step. I'm going to announce a commission coming forward from the Speaker, from bipartisan on both sides of the aisle.
This is a commission, by the way, that he is working on with Brian Fitzpatrick, who supposedly is the most moderate and bipartisan congressperson in the world. Doesn't seem like it. Does not seem like it. It does not seem like he is working for the people of Bucks County. It does not seem like they are working for the people of America. They're working for their buddies.
We only got to look at 11% of the budget to
This is the key part.
find these cuts. We have to look at the entire budget. The Congress has done this before.
Why didn't you see the whole budget?
Because the president walled off all the others. The majority driver of the budget is mandatory spending. It's Medicare, Social
And he wouldn't let
Security,
you
interest
see?
Medicare, Social Security, interest on the debt. Ding, 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 ding. That is him literally saying that we have to look at the remainder of the budget, mandatory spending, and cut it. That is him saying that out loud, unabashedly so, after all of them were feigning outrage about Biden saying that Republicans want to cut Medicare and Social Security. They want to literally make life harder for senior citizens in America. That is what that would do. That is what that would do. They want your grandmother to pick herself up by her bootstraps and get back to work. If you're a 60-year-old person, they don't want you to have the right to retire. They want you to have the right to go back to work at Walmart or Amazon. But God forbid, they have Pride Month, so you can't work there. You can't work there. It is utterly disgusting and outrageous. And honestly, the likelihood of this deal going through is pretty high. I do not believe that they will default on the debt, because the Republicans know that even if they get we're going to get the recession and that's going to lead us into victory in 2024. They are not that stupid. They know that actually a really bad recession, although it might electorally be good for them, is not good for the country. So we will see what comes of it. They are set to vote on it, I believe, overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. There are people in the Progressive Caucus that have already stated that they will not support this package. I don't blame them. I think that there is a lot of room to go here, but I think that eventually this package will probably get pushed through. And I personally would like to see the work requirements for these programs be discarded, because work requirements for people that are disabled, or they have kids and they're single parents and they can't work and they have young kids, or any sort of actual logical explanation for why someone can't work, well, that doesn't mean that we should say, well, you're going to starve. That is not how America should work, and that's not the America that I think is great. I think a great America will take care of our most needy, and I guess Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, disagrees with that. Lastly, I want to talk to you about a study. I talked to a friend of mine about this past week when I was playing video games with him. And it was brought up in this book, Stolen Focus. This specific study was brought up in this book, which was actually a book that I have talked about previously on episodes here. But Stolen Focus, Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again, by Johan Hari. This is a book that a classmate of mine did a presentation in our economics class on, but I actually wanted to dive into it after he did a presentation on it. And there's a lot more that he couldn't fit into a 5-minute presentation, because a 5-minute presentation is very, very short. Including something that was overlooked, not necessarily a fault of his, but was overlooked in the discussion, is the productivity increases of people, because that's the focus of this book, is focus and productivity. And I also have a second book that also notices and highlights the importance of the 4-day work week, focus, dissociation from social media, and all these other things that increase productivity and focus. This is called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. Cal Newport has a very good podcast as well about productivity and focus and, all these things, right? Both of these books, in different reasons, but more specifically Stolen Focus, highlight the benefits of a 4-day work week. The biggest example now that we have is a pilot program in the United Kingdom that has the results. Let me see if this gives me the actual results in the summary. Okay. Here's the executive summary. For those who are just listening, I will read. The report details the full findings of the world's largest 4-day working week trial. 4-day working week trial to date, comprising 61 companies and around 2,900 workers, that took place in the United Kingdom from June of 2022 to December of 2022. So it's a 6-month period. The design of the trial involved 2 months of preparation for participants, with workshops, coaching, mentoring, and peer support, drawing on the experience of the companies who had already moved to a shorter working week, as well as leading research and consultancy organizations. Companies which included a range of organizations from diverse sectors and sizes were not required to rigidly deploy one particular type of working time reduction or 4-day work week, so long as pay was maintained at 100% and employees had a meaningful reduction in work time. Which that means is there was zero deduction in pay. People were paid the same while maintaining a meaningful reduction in work time. The next line says, resisting the idea that the 4-day workweek must be one size fits all, each company designed a policy tailored to its particular industry, organizational challenges, departmental structures, and work culture. A range of 4-day workweeks were therefore deployed and developed, from classic Friday off models to staggered, decentralized, annualized, and conditional structures. Let's see. I'll skip this one, but then go. The trial was a resounding success. Of the 61 companies that participated, 56 are continuing with the 4-day work week. 92%. 18 confirming the policy is a permanent change. Some of the most extensive benefits of shorter working hours were found in employees' well-being. Before and after data shows that 39% of employees were less stressed, which is a huge problem in America. 71% had reduced levels of burnout at the end of the trial, which is good for the worker, but it is also good for the employee or the employer. Likewise, levels of anxiety, fatigue, and sleep issues decreased, while mental and physical health both improved. Measures of work-life balance also improved across the trial period. Employees also found it easier to balance their work with both family and social commitments. For 54%, it was easier to balance, and employees were also more satisfied with their household finances, relationships, and how their time was being managed. Let's just see what else. There's going to be some others. Here's a key one for employers. We actually have two. I'll actually read these two. Other key business metrics also showed signs of positive effects other than shorter working hours. Companies' revenue, for instance, stayed broadly the same over the trial period, rising by 1.4% on average, weighted by company size. That means that despite working a full day less per week, revenues went up. When compared to a similar period from previous years, organizations reported revenue increases of 35% on average, which indicates healthy growth during this period of working time reduction. The number of staff leaving participating companies decreased significantly, dropping by 57% over the trial period. Here's one final thing I'll say on this. For many, the positive effects of a 4-day work week were worth more than their weight in money. 15% of employees said that no amount of money would induce them to accept a 5-day schedule over the 4-day work week to which they were now accustomed. So, this study is one. This entire book is dedicated to talking about productivity changes based on improved relationships with social media, increased health benefits from exercising, which you need time to do, increased sleep, which has been dramatically reduced over the last 100 years for the average American, which then lessens a person's ability to focus, which then decreases their productivity at work. In this book, and it is talking about this study, it talks about the nominal productivity time of workers going up in totality in a 4-day work week versus a 5-day work week, which means what I'm talking about here is if you took 5 days, knocked off the Friday, the amount of actual productive hours, assuming that all the pay is the same, goes up. You get more out of your workers in the 4 days than you would in the 5 days because they're more motivated, they're more rested, they have more work-life balance, they have more control over their schedule, they have more control over their social life, they have autonomy over their life and their career, and they are more financially stable because of that. In the chat, how about a 4 in person, 1 work from home? I think that's a good start. I am in person every day, and during tax season, of course, I work 6 days a week. So for me, you know, if I ever ascend to being a boss at which, you know, that's hopefully the case on some level, whether that's, you know, in a office capacity or in a different capacity, I plan on implementing a 4-day work week as a boss, and the specifics of which I'll obviously have to work out if I ever get to that point, when I get to that point. But I think the 4 in and 1 work from home is okay. I think the 4-day work week is just better. I've had 4-day work weeks, and I had it where I had to work longer hours for the 4 days. I think that's also stupid. I don't think that you need to do that. I think you just keep it as it is, allow people the flexibility and autonomy over their lives, and it will benefit them. Would you agree that public schools probably won't ever adopt a 4-day work week? That's probably the case. But the thing is schools are unique in that they have summers off. So, I'm not going to suggest anything, but, you know, teachers have a different schedule than the average office employee that doesn't have a summer. Doesn't, you know, my summer was this past weekend. Like those are the days I get off. So there is probably a way to work around it in which teachers are given some benefit, but not every job is going to be compatible to the same schedule necessarily. This is for the average office employee. So a blue-collar worker might honestly only need to work 3 days a week. I mean, if you look at firefighters, they do not work 5 days a week. They could not work 5 days a week. It's just not physically safe to do that. 4-day work week and need public school to start at 10 a.m. I believe that there have been studies that say that school should start later. That is supposedly beneficial. The reason why school starts early is because of people having to go to work. I mean, that's the overriding nature of a lot of what we're talking about today is the capitalist driving, the capitalist class, I should just kind of say, because this is not like you don't have to be a Marxist to understand this, but and I'm not, you know, preaching anything that you maybe not know, but if you work for a living, you are not a capitalist. You are a part of the working class. You are part of the proletariat, if you want to use Marxist terms. The capitalist class, the people that own the businesses, okay? They need or they want to maximize productivity and production. And that's why I'm talking about this in a way that suggests that there is actually more productive output with a 4-day work week, which is true. It's not like I'm lying. This is what this study shows. If it was just up to me, I would just say it's just good for people to have more time and control of their lives. But that's not me. I'm talking about this in a more political sense. Folks that are in these seats need that. But you need school for people that work. And that's not to say that teachers are just there to babysit. That's not the case at all. But it is a part of our society that is kind of taken for granted. It is built into society. Now, you always notice, like, have you ever seen, like, people that are homeschooled and the parents are like, well, just homeschool your kids. Everyone should just homeschool your kids. Well, how can everyone homeschool their kids if everyone's also supposed to work? That's why we have public schools. So there's a lot of this stuff that is tied, and it's saying like, okay, well, if we move to a 4-day work week for office employees, we could look at the structure of schooling and say, well, maybe it should be 4 days, or maybe it should be. There's actually, in now I'm mixing the two books up, but again, these two books are very good. I believe it's in Stolen Focus. He goes to a school that has no curriculum, that has no structure outside of saying the kids get to decide what they want to do for a 3-month period, and they basically get to do it and they implement it, and the teacher kind of just goes with what they want. And they build rocket ships, and they learn about physics, and they learn about this and that and all the stuff. They cook and they do all the stuff because they're teaching life lessons based around an idea, a concept. Now, we don't need to go to such a radical change, but there's somewhere in the middle where it's like, well, okay, if you let creativity and imagination be part of it, and you let school boards and state governments and local governments have some autonomy over these types of public schools, and get rid of standardized testing, because that is one of the biggest flaws, you can start to get rid of this rigidity and say, well, this is what we can do to make people more happy. Not necessarily have to be more productive. You can make more inquisitive, curious, strong-willed people, kids that come out. They're still going to be productive in society. They might not learn about, I don't even know, like what you'd have to move around. But we all know that there's certain things that you learn in school that you don't need to. It's just part of your curriculum. You can change that stuff and say, well, instead of that, we're going to learn about taxes. And today, instead of this, we're going to learn about your local environment, and like Lindsay was talking about, growing agriculture in your community. Because then you're going to learn about geology, you're going to learn about geography, you're going to learn about horticulture. I think that's the right way of saying it. You're going to learn about cooking. You can, like, all this different stuff. And it bakes into a bigger curriculum. But this is they're all connected. These things are all connected. And it boils down to the prioritization of rigid control, coercion from a certain class of folks that, let's just say that they're not malicious, but it benefits them. And we as a collective society need to start looking at things, and that's why I think the rising unionization is good. Because this is in an office where, like, there are fewer, I mean, granted, it's in the UK, but in offices there is less likely of a union. So getting these benefits and holding these benefits, holding 100% of the pay, and still having this benefit is enormous for people. So CB brings up a great question. I wonder if the benefits would increase with a 3-day work week, or if a 4-day work week is a sweet spot. In the book, which this is not addressed in the study, I don't think, but in the book, there is a suggestion that 4 days might be the sweet spot, but also there hasn't been enough evidence to disprove that maybe 3 days is. Or maybe that it's like 3.5. Or maybe it's 5 days, but you work 4 hours a day. I mean, this is the thing. This is where the coerciveness of the system comes into play. How much control does a company need over you? Now, I might be saying it in a way that seems like it's malicious, but on some level, a company has control over your time. That is what they're paying you for. But with the increased level of AI and the increased autonomy through software, we could, rather than just saying we need to just cut workers, and then a lot of workers are going to need the welfare benefits that we're cutting also because Kevin McCarthy, we could just keep people paid the same way, increase their productivity by utilizing AI, reducing the time that they need to actually be in the office, and increase their productivity, increase the production, increase the revenues for the company, while also giving the benefits of less time in the office and more time with family, friends, doing your exercising, doing your hobbies, or just relaxing and sleeping. All of this is proven to be beneficial. This is, I'm telling you, you should go out and buy this book, or you should go out and rent it from your library. I'm not sure if it's on the Bucks County Free Library website for an audiobook. It's a pretty brand new book, but this is one that you should get. And the Digital Minimalism as well by Cal Newport. Both of them are good reads. I would suggest them both. And again, Jordan, to your point, she says, if I only worked 3 days, I wouldn't be able to afford to live. The point of this is to say that you're getting paid the same for the amount of days, right? So if I work 5 days a week normally, if I went to a 4-day work week, my pay would not be adjusted lower for that decrease in hours. It would be the same. That's the whole point. And that's what the study shows. And if you have 92% of them working with this and continue to use it, obviously something is working. And this is a new study. We will see as this goes on for longer. And we will see more studies, I'm sure, about this, because this is what people want. And you raise the question, what about hourly people? I don't think Starbucks is going to pay me for days I don't work. That's the case. But the thing is that per hour, you can have higher wages. You can say, form a union, and you can have more leverage and more labor power. There is a lot more dynamics. There's greater dynamics for people to bargain and leverage their power when the collective is stronger. And we don't just say, well, okay, the minimum wage is $7.25. That's just fine. We'll just leave it like that. If I work at Starbucks and McDonald's, which granted, neither of them actually have minimum wage employees, but that is to say, well, we're going to unionize and we want to have these benefits, and we want to have this, that, and the other thing. Now, I was at a Starbucks, which I don't normally go to Starbucks, but I was at a Starbucks at UPenn when I was in school, and they had one person working there, and it was overrode the whole time, and there was a line, way back. It's inside of Barnes & Noble. It's a bookstore, and it was way back. Like, we had at least 15 people in line, and the guy was just doing his best. He was the manager. He didn't have the autonomy to bring more people in. This is the type of thing where it's like, there are companies that are grinding people and milking them for every cent that they can get. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be malicious. It is their fiduciary duty to do so. But when we change the dynamics and Americans start to look at ourselves and say, we deserve better, we deserve more, we deserve to unite and have each other's back, rather than say, I got mine, so you have to go get yours. No. We can work together to form unions. We can work together to form worker co-ops. And if Starbucks isn't paying people well enough, well, guess what? You can start the local coffee shop down the street, because you're working 4 days a week and you have more likelihood to be able to start a small business. You have more time to create that financial independence, to take on the American dream that is to go and develop a company, develop an idea. This is the type of flexibility that actually to preserve capitalism, entrepreneurship, and frankly, the American dream as a whole. So I know that's not exactly a direct answer to say, well, what about hourly people? The point is that if all people that are salaried have the benefit, it should also be then a target of raising the minimum wage, hiring more people, etc. Right? And again, we should all want people to have the ability to work less. I mean, I think that's not a radical statement to say. We should all want people to be able to work less and enjoy their lives. We have one life, YOLO. You should probably try to live it, and you should probably spend not the majority of your life sitting in front of a computer, crunching spreadsheets like I do, and having the actual autonomy over your life that you want. But that's not where we're at right now. So we will keep fighting. We'll keep pushing. And if you found that useful, please go and check out the book Still in Focus. And I will put the link to the article that discusses it and the study in the description box of this video if you're, or this audio if you're listening, or the video if you're watching. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. This is a little bit of a longer episode. I apologize for last week saying that I won't be on air today. It's actually next week that I will not be on air, so you'll miss me. Maybe I'll put a throwback interview from the old Con O show on the channel, maybe as a little treat for those who want that. But while you are here, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up. It helps us grow in the algorithm organically. We don't get millionaires backing us like the Central Bucks Forward candidates, and we don't get millionaires backing us like the Daily Wire or other right-wing outlets. We are organic, and we are progressive and independent, so that way I can speak my mind. You can listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify, or any other place you get your podcasts. Please subscribe or follow the program there. You can follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I had a brain fart there. At Greater Society Media. You can follow me on Twitter at Con O'Hanlon. You can support the show for as little as $3 a month at patreon.com/Greater Society Media. And you can join the Discord server, which is linked in every single YouTube video and every single audio version of the program. Until next time, my friends, stay safe. Peace.